Topic 5. The Digital Nomad. Part 1. The Booking Blackout. Welcome back to the Season 4 finale of the English Oasis. We've learned how to make friends, fight for our rights, and navigate social etiquette. But there is one final arena where your English is tested to its absolute limit: the road. When you are a digital nomad, English isn't just a language. It's your lifeline. It's what you use to find a bed, fix a flight, and connect with strangers in a land where neither of you speaks the local tongue. Today, we follow Julian, who is about to learn that in the world of travel, perfect English is useless, but effective English is everything. It's time to master the art of the digital nomad. Julian lived out of a 40-litre backpack. He was a freelance graphic designer who moved to a new country every 3 months. He prided himself on his global fluency. He had navigated Tokyo, Lisbon, and Mexico City without a hitch. But when he arrived in a remote town in Vietnam at 11:00 p.m. after a 14-hour bus ride, his nomad confidence hit a wall. He walked into the small boutique hotel he had booked weeks ago, exhausted and covered in dust. He pulled up his confirmation on his phone and showed it to the receptionist. A young woman named Lynn looked at the screen, then at her computer, then back at Julian with a look of genuine distress. "I am so sorry," she said. "System error. No room. We are full." Julian felt the panic rising. This was the booking blackout. He was in a town where most signs weren't in English. His phone battery was at 4%, and the only person who could help him was someone whose English was just as functional as his was tired. In his frustrated state, Julian's first instinct was to use complex complaint English. "This is unacceptable. I have a legally binding confirmation number here. I've already been charged on my credit card, and I demand that you find me a comparable accommodation immediately." Lynn stared at him, her eyes wide. She understood unacceptable and demand, but the rest of the sentence was a blur of high-level vocabulary that only served to make her feel defensive and confused. Julian was using native-level logic in a global English environment. He was speaking at her, not with her. He realized he was failing the first rule of the nomad: linguistic empathy. He took a deep breath, lowered his voice, and reset his language. He stripped away the jargon and the complex grammar. He needed to move from angry customer to collaborative partner. He put his phone down and looked Lynn in the eye. "I understand," he said slowly. "No room here. But I am very tired. It is late. Can you help me find another hotel? Just for one night?" By simplifying his sentence structure, Julian removed the noise. He focused on the problem: no room. The context: late, tired, and the action: find another hotel. Lynn's posture relaxed. "Ah, yes. One moment. I call my cousin. He has a homestay nearby. Very clean." Julian realized that when two non-native speakers communicate, the goal isn't accuracy, it's transfer. He didn't need to be a poet. He needed to be a bridge. But as Lynn picked up the phone, Julian realized that his survival English was just beginning. He still had to negotiate a price for a place he couldn't see, and he had to do it in a way that ensured he wasn't being taken advantage of in the middle of the night. If you've ever been stuck in a foreign country and felt your business English fail you because the person you were talking to didn't understand your big words, hit that like button and subscribe. We're helping Julian navigate the world of simple but powerful English. Part 2. The International Standard. Julian watched as Lynn spoke rapidly on the phone in Vietnamese. He realized that in this moment he was completely dependent on a stranger. In the world of the digital nomad, this is called the trust gap. To close it, he had to use what linguists call B, E, L, F. English as a business, lingua franca. A version of English that is stripped of idioms, slang, and complex metaphors to ensure 100% understanding between two non-native speakers. Lynn hung up the phone. My cousin has room. 500 000 dong. Very close. 5 minutes walk. Julian's brain tried to do the currency conversion while simultaneously assessing the risk. 500 000 dong was roughly $20 USD. It was fair, but he needed to be sure about the quality. He didn't want to walk into a construction site or a room without a lock. Instead of asking, is the accommodation up to a reasonable standard of cleanliness and security? Which would likely result in a confused yes. Julian used the visual anchor technique. He used his phone as a tool, not just a screen. He pulled up a photo of a basic, clean room from a travel app. Is it like this? He asked. Pointing to the bed and the door lock, he asked, does it have aircon? He mimicked the shivering motion of being cold. Lynn nodded vigorously. Yes. Aircon. Hot water. Wi-Fi. Okay, but slow. Julian appreciated her honesty about the Wi-Fi. He realized that by using visual aids and gestures, he wasn't dumbing down his English. He was optimizing it. He was removing the possibility of a false yes. That dangerous moment when a non-native speaker nods yes because they are too embarrassed to admit they didn't understand. Next, Julian had to handle the security check. He didn't want to walk into the dark night with a stranger. He needed a paper trail. Can you write the address? He asked, handing Lynn his notebook. And the price? 500 000. Right here, please. By getting it in writing, Julian was creating a physical contract. If he arrived at the homestay and the cousin asked for one, 000 dong, Julian had the written proof from Lynn. In survival English, ink is better than air. Lynn wrote down the address and the name of the homestay. Green Garden. She then walked him to the door and pointed toward a narrow alleyway lit by lanterns. Go straight. Left at the big tree. Green Garden. Julian felt a surge of nomadic competence. He hadn't used a single big word, yet he had negotiated a price. He had verified the amenities and secured a written agreement. He realized that the international standard of English isn't about how many words you know. It's about how many barriers you can remove. As he walked toward the big tree, his heavy backpack pulling on his shoulders, he encountered a group of other travelers sitting at a small plastic table, drinking beer. They were from France, Brazil, and Japan. They were all speaking English, but it was a patchwork English, a beautiful, messy mix of accents and simplified structures. Julian realized that this was the global village in action. No one was judging anyone's grammar. They were sharing stories of missed trains and hidden waterfalls. But as he joined them for a quick drink to ask for directions, he realized that survival English isn't just for emergencies. It's for instant connection. He needed to learn how to tell his booking blackout story in a way that would make this diverse group laugh and welcome him in. If you've ever felt like your English level didn't matter because you were too busy trying to be understood, hit that like button. We're helping Julian master the art of connection English in Part 3. Part 3. The Universal Bond. Julian sat down at the low plastic table with the travellers from France, Brazil, and Japan. His backpack was at his feet, and his energy was low. But he knew that as a digital nomad, your social network is your safety net. If he stayed in his tired bubble, he'd miss out on local tips that could save him frustration. He realized that telling a story in a multicultural group is different from telling a story to native speakers. You cannot rely on wordplay or sarcasm. Those often get lost in translation. Instead, he used keyword storytelling. This technique focuses on core emotions and universal actions that everyone understands, regardless of their English level. Huge disaster tonight. Julian started using a tension hook. Hotel. Gone. System error. 11:00 p.m. No bed. He watched the faces around the table. The French traveller winced. The Brazilian man laughed in sympathy. They all understood disaster, no bed, and 11:00 p.m. He didn't say complex administrative oversight phrases. He used high imagery words. I was like a ghost, Julian joked, miming a tired walk. Lynn, the receptionist, was like an angel. She called her cousin. Now, I am heading to Green Garden. Is it? Okay? Or is it a horror movie? The group erupted in laughter. By using the angel, ghost, horror movie metaphors, Julian was using universal archetypes. You don't need a C1 level of English to know what a horror movie hostel looks like. I stayed there last week. The Japanese girl, Yuki, said, Green Garden is basic, but very kind. And the breakfast? Best noodles in the city. Julian leaned in. He was now in. He had used his English to build a micro-community. He realized that global English isn't a broken version of English. It's a distilled version. It's like a strong espresso compared to a diluted latte. It's faster, punchier, and more effective at creating a bond. He noticed that the group used echoing to maintain the conversation. When Yuki mentioned the best noodles, the Brazilian man didn't just move on. He echoed, "Noodles? Like spicy or soup?" This allowed Yuki to expand her thought without feeling pressured to produce perfect sentences. Julian realized that to be a great traveler, you have to be an active bridge builder. You have to help others speak by giving them easy words to work with. As he finished his beer and prepared to find the big tree, Julian felt a sense of global belonging. He wasn't just a guy with a booking error. He was a character in a shared story. However, as he stood up, he realized he had one more hurdle. To get to Green Garden, he had to navigate a dark alleyway where the big tree was actually 3 different trees. He needed to ask a local for the final 10 meters of directions. But this time, he wasn't talking to a traveler or a receptionist with functional English. He was about to talk to someone who might know only 10 words of English total. Julian realized that survival English was about to become non-verbal English. He had to learn how to use his voice as a sound effect and his body as a map to reach his final destination. Storytelling is the shortest distance between 2 strangers. If you've ever felt the magic of making a friend from a different country using just a few simple words and a lot of laughter, hit that like button. We're finishing Julian's journey, and Season 4, in the final part, Part 4, The Nomad's Reward. Julian left the laughter of the traveller's table and stepped into the quiet, humid darkness of the alleyway. The big tree was there, but the path split in 3 directions. His phone was now dead, a black mirror that was no longer a map. He saw an elderly man sitting on a wooden stool outside a small home, fanning himself in the heat. This was the final level of survival English. Communication when there is almost no shared vocabulary. Julian didn't try to use sentences. He used the pivot method. He paired a single anchor word with a strong visual gesture. He walked up, kept a respectful distance, and gave a small bow. "Excuse me?" "Green Garden?" he asked, with his voice rising at the end to signal a question. He pointed his finger toward the 3 different paths, his eyebrows raised in a "which one?" expression. The man looked at him, then at Julian's heavy bag. He smiled, showing a few missing teeth, and pointed a gnarled finger toward the leftmost path. "Green Garden." "Yes." "Straight." "Then." "Small bridge." "Small bridge," Julian repeated, nodding. He mimed walking over an arch with his hands. "Bridge?" "Bridge," the man confirmed, laughing. Julian thanked him and followed the path. He crossed the small wooden bridge, and there it was, a humble sign that said Green Garden Homestay. Inside, the cousin was waiting. He was a man named Bind. He didn't ask for a passport or a credit card first. He handed Julian a cold glass of lime water. Julian took the notebook where Lynn had written the price. 500, 000. He pointed to the number and then to himself. Lynn said 500, 000. OK. Bin looked at the notebook, saw his cousin's handwriting, and nodded. OK. 500, 000. No problem. As Julian finally dropped his bag in a clean, simple room with a humming air conditioner, he felt a wave of profound satisfaction. He hadn't used a single complex grammatical structure all night. He hadn't used the conditional or passive voice. He had used raw, functional, human English. He realized that his journey as a digital nomad had taught him the ultimate truth about language. The goal of English is not to sound like a native speaker. It is to be understood. In London, Leo learned to be a social architect. In New York, Maya became a neighborhood negotiator. In Sydney, Ken stood tall as a health advocate. In Chicago, Elena adapted as a cultural chameleon. And here, in a small village in Vietnam, Julian proved that he was a global citizen. Julian sat on his bed, listening to the crickets outside. He realized that the 40-litre backpack on his floor contained his clothes and his laptop, but his mind contained something much more valuable: the ability to land anywhere on Earth and find his way home. He wasn't afraid of booking blackouts or lost in translation moments anymore. He knew that as long as he had his survival English and his linguistic empathy, the whole world was his neighborhood. We have traveled across continents and through the most intimate parts of daily life. We've seen that English is the global operating system. It allows us to solve problems, make friends, and stay safe. The Global Citizen Challenge. Look at your life this week. Where can you be a social architect like Leo? Where do you need to be a negotiator like Maya? Don't wait for your English to be perfect before you start living your life. Use what you have, be clear, be kind, and keep building your bridges. Season finale reflection. Which of our 5 characters did you relate to the most? Was it Ken's struggle in the hospital or Elena's confusion at the dinner party? Tell us your story in the comments. Your experiences help this community grow. Thank you for joining us for Season 4 of the English Oasis. If these stories have changed the way you look at your language journey, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Season 5 is coming soon, where we will explore the future of English, navigating AI, global remote work, and the new rules of communication in a digital-first world. Stay global, stay curious, and remember, the Oasis is wherever you choose to speak.